So I'm currently reading The Millionaire Fastlane by DeMarco. In short, this book talks about getting rich in your 20s or early part of life rather than wait until retirement when you can no longer enjoy that money. So first, in order to get rich, you need to understand what financial path are you on right now and whether it's serving you or not. The three financial plans he describes is the sidewalker, the slow lane, and the fast lane. So let's dive into each to understand which one are you on. First, the sidewalker. DeMarco describes this plan as having no plan, just living in the now, living in the present, and not thinking about your future. I feel like it's a pretty good philosophy when it comes to living because we're always told live in the now, live in the present, but it's not such a good financial plan when you do end up living till 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. So how would you recognize if you or somebody you know is the sidewalker? First is their time perception. The time is abundant and they live like there is no tomorrow. You may hear them say things like, who knows, I might not live till 2 weeks or till tomorrow, so why should I be saving and thinking about that time? I can't take this money with me to the grave, so let's just spend it now. Their education perception is that finally I finished whatever education I finished, like a bachelor's, I finished the school, I don't need to do any more, I'm done, hooray. And their money perception is if you have it, spend it and show that you have it. If you're rich, you need to be spending it and buying the most expensive phones and the cars and showing to the world that you are rich. And if you don't have the money, no problem, there are credit cards and just buy the things to show that you are finally rich. The sidewalker's wealth equation is wealth equals income plus debt. Using more than you earn is totally fine. That's what the credit cards are for. So their life motto or life philosophy is really you only live once. Spend it now. The key components are living paycheck to paycheck, make sure that you show how rich you are, the image of wealth, definitely using credit cards, and oftentimes relying on luck. They believe that in order to have money, you need to be born into it or you need to win it. There is no way to make it, rather I say there is no way to make it for them, and instead you need to have some certain luck component in order to get into that wealthy, rich state. So would it be whether inheritance or being born this way or just some lottery. So an example of somebody like that would be somebody who buys the newest iPhone as soon as it comes out, somebody who leases the newest car that they've always wanted to drive, and that go on vacations, on borrowed money on credit cards. But in the end, this type of lifestyle only creates problems. They're in the endless cycle of debt, the credit card debt, paying out their rent, and they never own anything. They don't have any assets, they don't have any savings, and they really don't have any financial freedom. And the worst of all is that one financial emergency, losing their job or having a medical emergency where they need to spend a lot of money can get them in a rut that they cannot get out of. One quote that I wanted to share with you that DeMarco says is, if your destination is undefined, undoubtedly you will never arrive and likely end in a place you don't want to be. So if you want to have wealth and right now you feel like you are in this category, then probably this is not the place for you. So this second financial plan is very common, and honestly, until now, and even still, I feel like it's a pretty good financial plan. It's what we always hear is have a good job, save as much as you can, invest, and you will retire rich. Well, DeMarco calls it the slow lane because you have to spend about 40 years of your life hoping to cash out at the end of your life. So these type of people tend to sacrifice today for hope of better tomorrow. So somebody who has a 9 to 5 to about 40, 50 years old. They save 10% of their income just as they've been told. They put it in a retirement fund or a Roth IRA, and they typically rely on the stock market to slowly grow 8% year over year to get rich. DeMarco does acknowledge that this is safer than being on the sidewalk, but the problem is that it requires decades of discipline and saving, and you're putting off today for a hope of a better future. He calls it the hope life, where you hope you get a good paying job, you hope you don't get laid off, you hope there will be no financial difficulties, you hope the market will keep on going up, and then you hope that by the time you retire and want to cash out all that money, the stock market will not all of a sudden fall 40%. The reason why this book doesn't recommend this plan is because you live in a state of hope while you don't have any actual control over those variables. So what is better, you might be asking right now? And before I introduce the next financial plan, I want to read a short paraphrase story of the story that DeMarco included in the book. So, the pharaoh told his nephews, Chuma and Azur, "Build me a pyramid and you'll be kings." Azur started immediately. He was dragging stones by hand. It was slow, exhausting work, but after a year he already laid down the foundation of the pyramid. When he looked around, Chuma has not have even started. Instead of laying stones, he spent that time trying to build a machine. People were laughing at him, saying he was just doing nothing. After a few years, the work was hard for Azur. It was harder for him to drag stones to the upper levels, so the work got slower and slower, while Chuma has finished his machine and it lifted stones effortlessly for him. In just a few years, Chuma completed his pyramid and was crowned in the riches. Azur, on the other hand, still dragging rocks, never finished. In the end, he died before getting the promised riches. And so the third financial plan, the Fastlane, is about thinking like Chuma. Fastlaner's philosophy is build assets that detach time from money, meaning that you don't need to be putting in X amount of hours every week or every year in order to get paid X amount of money. So these people tend to create a business, a product, or a system that will solve other people's problems. So their mindset is rooted in creating value and building systems instead of just putting in the work. They use scale like internet marketing, franchising in order to just scale up and keep on building, exponentially instead of linearly. They focus on things that they can actually control, like their business processes or the marketing and innovation of their product. Their goal is to build assets that generate cash flow without having to put hours to trade for money. So I'm sure we've heard of these examples, like let's name him Alex. He's working tirelessly to build a platform on the internet that will connect the tourists and the tour guides. At first it takes in so much work, but once launched, it's able to work 24/7 and people can find and get connected even when Alex is sleeping. So in the end, he earns money from every booking, and as the platform grows, the money just keeps on coming exponentially. DeMarco does acknowledge that this is more of a high risk, but it is certainly a high reward. And this is the lane where you can get rich when you're young without having to expect luck, or a lightning to strike you down. It does require work and creativity and persistence, but he does believe that by persisting, you actually can create your own luck. And another quote I wanted to read from the book, he says, "The winning team is team producer. Reshape life's focus on producing, not consuming. And I think it's a very good comparison that perhaps the sidewalkers tend to be the consumers. They mostly just buy and try to spend all their money. But if you are a producer of a certain product, then those sidewalkers will just come over and buy it from you. And all of a sudden, you are generating even more money than the money from your job. Now, I hope this video was helpful in gauging which financial plan are you in currently, and if you agree or disagree with the author. If you would like to have more ideas and to learn about more things that DeMarco is talking about in his book, feel free to comment down below or like or subscribe, and I will keep on making more videos like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.